2311 and Front Row Motorsports have lost their charters, at least temporarily, while Kyle Larson gets a big midweek win and SMI contemplates putting a roof over Bristol. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. Happy Friday, folks. Packed show for y'all today. 2026 schedule rumors, a little sprint car racing action. Get your gavels out because NASCAR is in session once again. So much to get to. First, we have to thank our sponsor. This episode is sponsored by Tiger Balm. When you're putting in those long hours and your body is telling you to quit, you need something that actually works. Tiger Balm has been the trusted name in pain relief for over 100 years. I can tell you firsthand, it targets the pain exactly where you need it. Whether it's your shoulders, stiff joints, nagging back pain, Tiger Balm's legendary herbal power helps you rise above pain and get back to living fast. To try it out for yourself, head to tigerbalm.com/US. Link is down in the description, or find it at a store near you. I know that most of y'all are as burned out as I've been with all the legal chatter the past couple of weeks, so I'll try to keep today's updates simple. Since their original injunction was overturned, 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports filed paperwork this week in a last-ditch effort to maintain their charter status through the rest of the 2025 season. Yesterday, a judge refused to grant the teams their temporary restraining order to keep their charters, and NASCAR confirmed in a filing that 2311 and Front Row have completed the paperwork to race as open teams the next 2 weeks. But it's not over. We're still awaiting the results of the team's latest preliminary injunction request. Results are expected in the next couple of weeks, so there is still a chance that 2311 and Front Row could regain their charter status soon. But Judge Kenneth Bell denied the temporary restraining order request because he saw no evidence the teams would suffer irreparable harm these next couple of weeks. A big part of the team's restraining order argument was that NASCAR had supposedly told them that they had interested buyers who were willing to purchase the team's repossessed charters. If 2311 and Front Row's charters went back to NASCAR and then turned around and were quickly sold to another organization, it would be very difficult, regardless of the outcome of the lawsuit this fall, it would be very difficult for the teams to get those charters back. But according to court documents, NASCAR has assured the courts that they, quote, will not sell any charters before the court can rule on plaintiff's motion for preliminary injunction. So for now, the team's charters will be put off to the side for the time being. Once the injunction is ruled upon, however, there is the chance NASCAR puts them up for sale and a rival organization could bid on them. But that won't happen, at least until this injunction is decided on. The judge also explained this week that neither 2311 nor Front Row Motorsports were in any danger of missing the next couple of races. He also deemed that it was unrealistic that drivers would break their contract mid-season, which is fair. I get why the teams tried to make that argument. You make every argument you possibly can, but Tyler Reddick's not going anywhere in the middle of the summer in July. Where is he going to go? He's currently 4th in points, a legit championship contender. Charter or no charter, he's probably going to stick it out at least this season. According to court records, NASCAR is confirming that there will be 40 or fewer entries for the next 2 weeks, so no risk of 2311 or Front Row missing the show. That is part of why the judge refused to grant the teams their temporary restraining order. But that's it, basically. For the next 2 races, Dover, Indianapolis, 2311 and Front Row Racing will be open entries. They should be able to qualify for both races. This won't impact their playoff eligibility. In Tyler Reddick's case, it will not impact his in-season challenge status. And NASCAR will not sell the team's charters to another organization until the injunction is ruled upon, again, likely in the next couple weeks. That's it in a nutshell. Those are the updates. Really, this is just another step of the infinite staircase that is this antitrust case. Things could get spicy in a couple weeks, though. If the teams are denied their preliminary injunction, NASCAR could put their charters up for sale the very next day. And if a rival organization were really to purchase one of those charters for 2026, what has been an otherwise fairly quiet 2026 silly season would devolve into a complete madhouse, potentially. So we'll talk about the latest as it comes out. That's it for now. Moving on. Last night, the High Limit Sprint Car Series was on national TV. FS1 Eldora Speedway. Kyle Larson, series co-founder, walked away with the feature win and a $100,000 prize. I would consider myself a casual sprint car fan, been to a couple dirt sprint car races back in the day. I watched most of the broadcast. It was a good time, although the feature was marred early by a massive crash. Driver Tyler Courtney was actually taken to a local hospital. Late last night, there was an update provided by the team, or I guess actually provided by Tyler's fiance, that says the driver is alert, able to move his extremities. So that is a positive sign, but obviously we'll hope for more positive news. Stay tuned on social media for additional updates. Several harrowing incidents last night, but ultimately it was Kyle Larson who went on to get the big win. A huge momentum boost, perhaps, which is big considering many NASCAR fans have pointed out that NASCAR Kyle Larson hasn't quite looked the same since the Memorial Day weekend disaster. Charlotte, the 600, was rough. Larson's head, maybe his heart, weren't quite in it. He took the lead early, but got into the wall, spun out. His evening snowballed from there. But in my opinion, his performance in the 7 races since is being blown a bit out of proportion. Some people are acting like he's been terrible, which I don't think is true. Look at the 3 conventional oval races in the past 7 weeks. Michigan, Nashville, Pocono. Larson's finished 8th, 7th, and 5th. Pretty good. In my opinion, the recent inconsistency stems from inconsistent tracks, a bunch of road courses, a street course, weather, a super speedway at Atlanta that took out 20 cars in the big one. Like, look at Mexico City. Larson was running top 10, got wrecked in the rain. What you gonna do? Atlanta, again, 20 car pileup. What you gonna do? Sonoma this past weekend was really the only disappointing Kyle Larson performance in that span. Considering how great he's been at Sonoma over the years, he faded to mid-pack in the opening run, used some strategy sure to get stage points, but then lost track position, caught up in a wreck, bad result. Sonoma was bad. That's fair. It's also fair to point out that Larson has led only 3 laps in the Cup Series since Memorial Day weekend. That is very unusual for Kyle Larson, but again, we've been going to a lot of unusual racetracks. And at least a couple times, Kyle Larson has been swept up in other drivers' issues for a change. Look at these upcoming races. Dover this weekend, Larson finished 2nd there last season. Indianapolis, where Larson is the defending Brickyard 400 winner. Sure, there's maybe some bad memories there, but I expect him to be fast. Then Iowa, Richmond, throw in Watkins. Conventional tracks, mostly ovals. I expect Larson to run top 5, top 10. I would not be surprised if he nabs another victory between now and the end of the regular season. It has not been a great stretch for Larson, no doubt. Don't seem to have quite the speed they started the year with, but some of the inconsistency, in fact, a lot of the inconsistency, I would argue, is due to inconsistent tracks and again getting swept up in other people's accidents. Something to watch going forward, but perhaps this Joker's jackpot victory is the shot in the arm, the momentum Larson needs to finish the summer stretch strong. We just talked about the immediate schedule. What about next year's NASCAR schedule? The 2026 schedule has not been released, although a few dates are beginning to trickle out, get stamped on the calendar. I want to start with this real quick. Marcus Smith, CEO of Speedway Motorsports, owns almost half the tracks on the schedule, was on Kevin Harvick's Happy Hour podcast and suggested that SMI would love to put a roof over Bristol Motor Speedway.
The thing that would be awesome to do, and we could do it, is to put a roof on Bristol one day. I would love that.
Yes, this is real. A roof over Bristol could allow them to host numerous other events. Obviously, they have a baseball game here in a few weeks, but you mentioned WrestleMania, for example. Being from Texas, I can appreciate Marcus Smith's bigger is better worldview. A roof or a cover or something over Bristol would present serious logistical challenges. Obviously, the manpower, the raw material it would take to build such a thing would be massive. But then there are practical issues, fumes. Ventilation would need to be superb. Some have talked about noise, depending on what the roof is made out of. Man, Bristol already one of, if not the loudest tracks on the schedule because of how tight, compact, sound bounces off the walls. Imagine having a roof, all of that sound trapped in a box. I can already feel my ears bleeding. There are certainly some practical concerns. As a race fan, I'd rather them spend millions of dollars elsewhere on maybe some of their other facilities. Texas Motor Speedway could use an update or two. But if they want to put a dome or a roof or some sort of cover over Bristol, I mean, I can't lie. I would be intrigued to see how that would work in practice. This feels like something that's been like wish casted by race fans for years, tongue in cheek, like we know it would never happen, but what if it was possible? SMI seems to be suggesting it is possible. That would be pretty insane. Anyway, now to some real schedule news and rumors. The Athletic and NowRacer.com are both reporting that NASCAR will head to San Diego next year. As you all know, I am a big fan of this idea. I think the Chicago street race course has put on a compelling racing product. Bringing that to another urban center makes a ton of sense. There's a gap in the Southern California market right now. A San Diego street race would fill that gap. I love it. No notes. Let's do it. Jordan Bianchi, writing for The Athletic, I'll link his full report down in the description below, discussed a few other schedule rumors. He says there is still mutual interest in continuing the Mexico City and Chicago Street Cup Series events. Although he mentions that Mexico City might have to move to the springtime to take advantage of that Easter Sunday off weekend, also to avoid, summer World Cup conflicts. And Chicago, we know the city of Chicago has warmed up to NASCAR, but they're still not huge fans of NASCAR taking over July 4th weekend. So that's another date that may need to move if that relationship is to continue. And you can't run every race in the spring or every race in the fall. You need races to cover that midsummer stretch. So while it sounds like both deals are still on the table, there is still a possibility that NASCAR return to Mexico and or Chicago next season. There's also a real possibility they take a year off, or in the case of the Chicago street race, maybe multiple years off, because Bianchi also mentions that Chicagoland Speedway is very much on the table. 1.5 mile oval, nearly an hour outside of downtown Chicago. NASCAR has not raced at Chicagoland Speedway since pre-pandemic, right? Since 2019. NASCAR needs to be in the Chicago area. It is the third largest media market in the country. A lot of race fans in the Midwest. I know there are other great venues not far from the Chicago space, but Chicago itself is such a big city, and I think the next gen car would put on a wonderful show at the aging Chicagoland Speedway Intermediate layout. I've heard rumblings, though, that they might consider repaving Chicagoland if that happens. Can we do a North Wilkesboro thing? Just let the old surface sit for a year, run one race at least, see how it goes, then maybe we can talk about repave. Like, I want to see an aged Chicagoland with the next gen car. Just once. Can we see one of those, please, just to see how it goes? That'd be my only request. But whether it's the street race or the oval, Chicagoland should get a Cup Series race next year. That's my takeaway. I don't have much else to say here. The 2025 schedule came out last August, at the very end of August. So within the next month or so, very good chance we get the full 2026 schedule. Let me know down in the comment section below. Would you prefer another Chicago street race, Chicagoland Speedway? How do you feel about San Diego? That one sounds all but confirmed. Just got to figure out the exact course, layout, neighborhood, all that good stuff. Let me know what you think of these latest NASCAR schedule rumors down in the comment section below. Real quick, before we get out of here, y'all thought I forgot. I didn't. The in-season challenge is down to its final four. On one side of the bracket, Ty Dillon versus John Hunter Nemechek. The Cinderella run continues. On the flip side, it's Ty Gibbs versus Tyler Reddick. Gosh, monster mile matchups. Our first one is Ty Dillon, the 32 seed who survived Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski, knocked Alex Bowman out of the way at Sonoma to advance. He's made it to the Final Four and will battle John Hunter Nemechek, who kind of won last week's matchup over his teammate by default. They both struggled. The 42 is the better car. You could argue John Hunter Nemechek is the better driver, won 7 Xfinity Series races a couple years ago for Joe Gibbs Racing. All signs point to this being Legacy Motor Club's time to shine, but I'm picking Ty Dillon. Just for funsies, frankly. Look, Dover is unforgiving. They call it the Monster Mile for a reason. Doesn't take much for a small accident to sweep up 3 or 4 cars. There's safer barriers on either side. The track is banked even on the straightaway. They call it self-cleaning. Guys constantly slide in or towards the wall. Easy to damage your race car. Ty Dillon steady behind the wheel, doesn't make a ton of mistakes, usually keeps it clean. John Hunter Nemechek, on the other hand, known to push the issue. Fast, sometimes aggressive. I could see the 42 slipping at some point and giving Ty Dillon a path to the championship round. So my pick is Ty Dillon for the memes. Our other matchup this week is more of a heavyweight fight. Two Toyotas, Ty Gibbs versus Tyler Reddick. I think I'm taking underdogs this week. I like Ty Gibbs here. I know I keep dwelling on you. Chris Gabehart is the crew chief now, but another top 10 at Sonoma. That's 5-6 weeks in a row now. Ty Gibbs consistently getting good finishes. Now, he hasn't faced anything like Dover in that span, but he has a top 10 at Dover in his young career already. Joe Gibbs Racing will bring him fast race cars. I like Ty Gibbs. I think Ty Gibbs has some momentum right now. Give me the 54 to advance. I am projecting here right now a Ty versus Ty championship round. Imagine if they tied at Indianapolis. Oh my gosh. Okay, no, I'm sorry. Now we're just getting silly. Those are my matchup predictions. Ty Dillon over Nemechek. I'll take Gibbs over Reddick. Let me know down in the comments below who you're taking this week to make the in-season tournament final round. That's it for today, folks. Covered a lot of ground. Appreciate you sticking with me. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed. Subscribe for more NASCAR content, commentary, news, race reactions, and so much more every single day, every week, all year long. I greatly appreciate your support. Uploaded a ton of content the past few days. Interviews with Ryan Truex, Ryan Stevens, and I did our Dover pre-race preview. Yesterday, I uploaded my Victory Junction vlog. Truly was a tremendous blessing to get to see firsthand all of the great things Victory Junction is doing to enrich children's lives, to give kids who otherwise would not have this opportunity the summer camp opportunity of a lifetime, making a huge difference. It was amazing to see that firsthand, to document some of it, share it with y'all. So I hope you'll check that video out if you need a feel-good story to wrap up your week. That's all for me, folks. I'll talk to you again soon. Have a great rest of your Friday.